Hello. Thanks for your responses to last week's message that I entitled Adultery in Church. Not everybody liked it, but that's allowed. It was a message I recorded about 2 years ago and felt it was finally time to release it. Divorce is at a level now, even amongst Christians, that would have been unacceptable amongst unbelievers less than 100 years ago. King Edward VIII abdicated in 1936 because of his plan to marry a divorcee. The official stance by the Church of England at that time was that divorcees couldn't remarry. Well, the wheels have surely come off the wagon amongst Anglicans since. One Church of Ireland minister told me that if your second marriage failed, they wouldn't marry you a third time, deeming you unfit to be married at all. Meanwhile, that minister who oversees a parish is on his own second marriage. His wives have all been unbelievers. And there doesn't seem to be any accountability for this conduct in the C of I. But what about the rest of us? It's easy to criticize them when the Pentecostals and Presbyterians, for example, have also compromised. News has just emerged of another pastor in America who stepped down because of an adulterous affair. As usual in these cases, the woman is not exposed, even though she was also a partaker in the sin. She probably won't be called to account, certainly not publicly anyhow. But Proverbs 30 says, the adulterous woman eats, wipes her mouth and says, I have done no wickedness. There is a double standard going on. Most of the church now accepts remarriage after divorce, yet if a man falls, people are ready to throw stones. When a couple separated some time ago, I asked the question, what did the wife contribute to the failure of the marriage? Anyone could see that he had an anger problem, but I could discern the silent stubbornness in her. Proverbs 25 says, it is better to dwell in the corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman. Proverbs 27 says, a quarrelsome wife is as annoying as constant dripping on a rainy day. I was once with a man who had to hold the phone at arm's length while his wife was screaming at him. Yeah, screaming. Who wants that? Proverbs 14 says, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish one pulls it down with her hands. Indeed, the foolish one tears it down with her mouth as well. 1 Corinthians 7:5 reads, do not deprive one another except with consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, so that Satan does not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. When was the last time that was preached in your church? For many men, their wives are only roommates. There's no intimacy anymore because their wives get headaches. Even if the marriage does endure, it won't be happy. Ephesians 4 says, give no place to the devil. You know what? If you're giving your husband a hard time unnecessarily, you might as well say, dear Satan, come in and take control of our marriage. After all, you've already done everything bar verbalize that prayer. Oh, and being the good servant in church, that is the pastor's pet, doesn't make up for the evil at home. If you have a habit of berating or rejecting your husband, he may not want to come home to you. He might stay late at work and befriend his secretary. Am I saying that that is right? I'm saying that you aren't. In God's eyes, you will have to give account just as much as your husband does. In all of my years of listening to women whining about the failures of their husbands, I've never heard one exhibit a shred of accountability for her own actions. I've never heard a Christian man, though, to badmouth his wife, but I can see many are taking a lot on the chin, keeping a stiff upper lip, yet they're breaking inside. I reiterate my sympathies for people who have had unhappy marriages. But may I point out that particularly amongst people who have had multiple marriages, I've never known any of those to take responsibility for their decisions. One woman I knew was married 3 times. One of those marriages lasted 10 years and the others lasted 2 weeks each. She said the short ones don't count. Imagine being married to her. I'm sharing a link to Karen's sites. She keeps her messages short, but it's time that a woman said what needs to be said. Final thought. Adultery is not always the cause of marital breakdown. It's the result.